When you start to take over your physiology and take responsibility for it, you're doing just that. You're taking responsibility for it away from your brain or the natural processes, and you got to keep that balanced. And when it's not, there's going to be side effects. You'll feel it and you'll know it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start here. So yeah, first off, congratulations on taking the time to join this workshop. There's a lot of other places you could be, a lot of other things that you could do, and we're really excited to have you here to start this off. The fact that you're here tells me a couple things. It tells me you want to reach your full capacity and beyond, possibly increase your capacity, but you're currently struggling, or you got somebody in mind that is struggling with one or more of the following here. So low energy, cognitive function, libido, mental health, emotional stability, struggling with sleep disturbances, weight management, body composition, other chronic health conditions. So this is not an exhaustive list, but bottom line is hormones do influence a lot of physiology in our body. Now, everything is under control of the central nervous system and your brain, but then hormones go out, and your hormone balance is a key indicator for what kind of function you're going to have in these areas. Who this is not for, that's a clear thing. It's good to get that out of the way, just to kind of understand what we're looking for is individuals looking for a quick band-aid solution. We're going for root causes as far as the way we approach this. Individuals who are not ready to take action for a better future, and individuals who are happy and content with their current health. We're looking for clients, a very specific subset, people who want more and want to address some specific things with some very specific protocols. Big promise for today, I'm sharing with you what's possible. If you remove the barriers that are currently preventing you from achieving a better life than you ever thought was possible. And a lot of times that's just what it is. It's removing the barriers. We'll get into that a little bit more, but I'm excited to show what we got here. So if you stay until... I miss you, baby, and I don't want to miss a thing. Got to wake up, make sure everybody's paying attention here still. I don't know what generation everybody's from, but you don't want to miss a thing. So if you stay till the end, we'll get a little Aerosmith there. Learn how to receive a copy of my Principal Nutrition Guide that you can use for a quick win today. That can go right on your refrigerator. It's pretty self-explanatory, but we put a lot of work into that, and it's very simple to follow. Thirdly, have an opportunity to access a uniquely tailored version of my Superhuman You program that's been proven to help thousands in similar situation to you. We named it that, Superhuman You, because we want to take you above and beyond what maybe you thought was possible or what you thought was attainable for your human potential. So super meaning above that. And there's some really cool ways that we can do that. So I'm excited to show you. Here is my crew here, just to kind of get to know me and a little bit of background on me if you don't know me personally. First off, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. You'll learn that about me sooner or later, so I'll just get that out there right now. Secondly, I'm a husband to my wife. And thirdly, father to my daughters. And then fourth, what brings us here is I'm a tonal, T-O-N-A-L, tonal doctor of chiropractic. More about that on the next slide. But with my free time, I enjoy researching principles of healthy living, mountain biking, paddle sports, and racket sports, things like that, hunting, shooting sports. That's a little bit about me. Here is some of my background credentials here. So like I said, I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I'm the CEO owner of Principled Living Tonal Chiropractic. We have a brick and mortar practice, and now we're launching this virtual health coaching. Not to say that you have to meet virtually. If you want to come to the office, you certainly can, but we can reach anybody anywhere. And that's just really, really exciting to be able to reach people, especially in today's day, through a Zoom call, just like this. Advanced Proficiency Rating and Torque Release Technique. That is the technique, the tonal chiropractic technique that we use in our office. I'm certified in auriculotherapy by the American College of Addictions and Compulsive Disorders. So brain chemistry, hormones, background in there. And I'm working towards my diplomat in the addictions and compulsive disorders. So I'm a candidate for that as I speak. Our mission as a practice here is to improve the stress response, health, and quality of life for as many families as possible with our research proven and root cause tonal health model. I know that's a mouthful, but it was very intentionally picked there to really capture the essence of what we do, why we do it. And that summarizes it really well. I mean, stress response, if you handle stress well, then you're adapting well to life. And if you adapt well to life, your health is probably in a good position. If your health is in a good position, well, then your quality of life is good. And that's really what we're ultimately after. So it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank if you're sick in a hospital bed. And then we want to do that for as many families as possible, not just the sickest member, but the whole family. It's a unit. And we do that with our research proven and root cause tonal health model. So people want to know that this is a scientific backing, there's research behind it. And we want to address the root causes as much as we can, whenever we can, because we get a better bang for our buck, and we're not having the side effects that are often associated with non-root cause approaches. Quick testimony here. Just wanted to share Yvette's testimony of victory. She has an awesome testimony. And what she said is, I love how thorough Dr. Samuel is with me and all his participants. He helps the body to rid of interference so it can do what it was designed to do. Talking about the root cause approach there. She tracks all of her metrics with an Oura ring. It's a ring that you wear on your finger, but it's probably the most accurate tracker that there is, way more than the watches and things like that. As she looked back, she averaged between 30 to 45 minutes more of her REM deep sleep every night, which I agree. It is significant in deep sleep. That's where we flush toxins, immune system strengthens, tissue repair and growth, and cell regeneration happens. Very cool. I highly recommend Principle Living to basically everyone I come in contact with. So I just wanted to share that's a very encouraging testimony that we had. And I got one more here. Okay. So I want to share that with you. And switch it back over here. Screen. Okay. So a little bit about my story, my background here. I spent over a decade of my life with hormones so imbalanced, I was seriously considering dropping out of school. It was a very pivotal part of my life. And at that time, I was emotionally spent. So maybe you can relate to some of this. I was emotionally spent, chemically imbalanced. So when I say chemical, I talk about water is a chemical, but all of our hormones are a chemical. And then there's the toxic chemicals and the street drug chemicals. It's a broad term there. Physically exhausted. And really, I just wanted something specific to fight or to work on, until I did have one of these. And I hope that you basically have one of these today. I had a fork in the road. So I had a chance to do something different with my health. And that started off for me with labs and functional nutrition. So this was before I even knew about going into chiropractic, but I was relieved. I saw results on my labs and I was relieved to have something to work at that I could retest and I could see improvement on. I had some diet changes to work on. I had some actionable steps to work on. And that was actually a relief to me. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's kind of discouraging to be told that you have genetics and genes and it's not going to change. And so just suck it up and deal with it. But it was empowering for me to say, hey, I can do some things about my health and where I'm at. And it worked, and it worked really well. Now I've come a long way since then. I've added other things. I've learned about chiropractic and the power of the nervous system and the tonal chiropractic approach, a lot about mindset, spirituality. So it goes much deeper than that, but it started for me with fork in the road. I had a chance to get some labs done, and it was a really good decision that I did make that. Discovery and breakthrough. So a little bit of my process and how I kind of came about this is we have the best crisis care system in the world, hands down, yet one of the worst healthcare systems. And so what I'm talking about that is we have the best ER, ability to do surgeries, things like that, but to get people truly healthy, off medications, functioning on their own, and keep them that way, we struggle. We have one of the worst infant mortality rates of all the industrialized countries. And it's really sad to see that. So we're trying to make a change and do something different about that. Epigenetics, genetic versus genetics. So both knees, both elbows in you are the same age, but yet oftentimes one will wear out before the other. So my point in saying that is genetics and the genes you got from your parents, that actually has less of a factor than we've been told. A lot of it is epigenetics, which is basically the way your genes express based on your lifestyle. So you have a lot more control over even your gene expression than you realize. And we've got really good identical twin studies to prove that based on lifestyle, which identical twin ends up having cancer or not having cancer. That's very eye-opening. Third, if you're not addressing the root causes, you're strengthening the problem. A lot of good examples of this, but I like to use the example of a fever. If you have a fever and you're taking a fever reducer, your fever is your body's intelligent way of fighting an infection. That's a good thing, and we don't want it to get out of control and cause other problems with brain cell damage and things like that. But if we take a fever reducer, we're putting our immune system on pause. Or not addressing the root cause, or letting our body even adjust the root cause, and then that infection proliferates and gets worse. So that can be like a side effect of hormone replacement therapy, or a lot of the things that we do. If we're not addressing the root cause, we are strengthening the problem. So some of my results, I did graduate at the top of my class and I'm getting through school. I did not drop out, successfully own and currently operate 3 businesses and off all medications, off all hormone replacement therapies, while balancing labs at the same time. So I got to see my labs come back into the normal ranges, and that was really exciting and good to see. So at this point, you might be thinking, I don't have the time or energy to make big changes. It worked for you, but will it work for me? Can I afford it? So those are all valid questions, great questions. Well, it really boils down to 3 things here. So there are 3 keys to succeeding with this program, the Superhuman You program that I have. One is you must be coachable and willing to take action. That's number 1 there. It's hard for anybody to do anything for you if you don't want it. And that's good because you have free will. And I mean, even God doesn't violate that. He gives us free choice and he doesn't make us do certain things. 2 is you must focus on progress. You do not need to be perfect. What we use in some of the coaching groups that I really like is fail forward faster. It's kind of a Silicon Valley thing. Google, big tech out there. Fail forward faster. Instead of feedback, feed forward. Look at what you got going and keep focused forward. Learn from the past, but keep focusing forward. 3, you must commit to never letting your self-doubt stop you from having what you want. So important. We can go into that for hours, but the power of the mind and what your brain controls, your physiology, your gene expression, it's just so important that you have a good mindset of where you're at and where we're going. So you can do this regardless of what have or haven't tried in the past. If you have these 3 traits, you can do it. So just for a second, let's take a little pit stop here. Imagine what your life will look and feel like when you can finally fill in the blank. If you came to this workshop today with something that you're like, I just can't get out of the bed without dragging myself. I have to have coffee just before I can even put my clothes on. I mean, just whatever that is, take a minute to think and just imagine what would your life look and feel like if you could finally do that. So to get your life back, what I'm proposing is based on, and we need to look a little bit deeper here, but the reason you showed up for this workshop is you have some interest in this. You need to optimize your hormones, and without those irreversible risks of hormone replacement. We don't want to be doing something we don't need to do that could have permanent damage potentially, or just unfortunate and uncomfortable side effects. I just cringe sometimes when I do see a TV commercial these days and the laundry list of commercials of side effects at the end. The one I really get a kick out of, it'll be like, first off, brand new medication for psoriasis. And then the first thing is, if you're allergic or if you've had a bad reaction to said medication, don't take it. It's like, how would you ever know? It's brand new. Like, it's crazy but it's legally, they're there, they protect themselves. But they say it for a reason. So the problem, the drain and fog of life stress can be extremely frustrating, especially if you're self-employed, you're an entrepreneur, homemakers included, so single moms. We see you and that you are running a mini business right there in yourself with raising a family. Those often compound. They create more feelings of hopelessness and negativity. They impact your kids, spouse, friends, coworkers. But when your alarm goes off in the morning, you have no choice but to do it all over again. So you get up and you go, and you have to do that. What's the end game? That's my question. Okay, what's the end game? What are we going to do differently to not have this repeated cycle? So the good news, in most cases, quick wins come from simply doing less of the wrong things. And that's a key thing is just sometimes we got to declutter. A lot of people's New Year's resolution has been, I'm going to declutter. Doing less of the wrong things can give you a quick win. In the next few moments, I'm going to give you 3 critical discoveries that I made in my journey and have now incorporated into my Superhuman You program that can be used for a quick win today. But first off, we're just going to go through and let's just understand a little bit more about hormone replacement. So hormone dysregulation and why we would want to optimize our hormones. So the top 3 causes of dysregulated hormones. We're talking about this in the office this week. But I want to take a pit stop. We touched on this before. I like to kind of throw in the myth buster every once in a while. It's just kind of a shake it up here. I've heard this a lot. My parents had blank, so I will too. Heart disease, needed a knee replacement, whatever it may be. This next quote, I think, is super powerful. Genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. It's like, let that sink in for a minute. Think about what that means to you. My challenge for you is, do you want to take your finger off the trigger, or do you want to patch bullet holes for the rest of your life? Right? If the genes are loading the gun, but your lifestyle is what's actually pulling the trigger, I think there's a clear answer there. We want to take our finger off the trigger and address those lifestyle issues. Contrary to popular belief, the genes inherited from one's parents do not set a child's future development in stone. That's the Harvard Developing Child Program. So just to pull in some research to validate what I'm talking about there, I think that's important in Harvard. You know, it's cutting edge research. I've seen that. We've seen it with identical twin studies, but more and more is being done, and that will just continue to be validated as time passes. So toxins, the first one here. This is now we're back to the 3 causes of dysregulated hormones. Toxins, I define that as too much of what you don't want. Forever chemicals here, number 1 here. Forever chemicals, or PFAS, are now found in 97 to 99% of Americans' blood samples. An example of that would be like Teflon or stain repellent. It's an acronym. PFAS is an acronym for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. Basically, these crazy compounds and supplements that we make them and they don't really go away. So they end up somewhere, and a lot of times they've been ending up in people's blood and even placenta or baby's blood. You know, that's crazy. Their little baby's not developed enough to handle that. Drinking water contaminants. That's number 2. So 2 of kind of one to be aware of: nitrate fertilizer, arsenic, the PFAS, industrial solvents, medications. Filtering your water is critical. And a Brita filter, pour over through filter, that's great. That'll take out some of the chlorine, but there's a lot of better ways to really clean up that water. And then you're not putting a toxic burden on yourself by just drinking water. Water should be something that's helpful and only helpful for your system. 3, artificial food colors. So red 3 is not allowed in a lot of personal care products, but it is allowed in thousands of food items in the United States. There's just some really incongruent regulations and things that we do you wouldn't know. But bottom line is, don't just trust what the FDA and what the 3 little agencies say. You got to take control of your health, because you're responsible for it much more than they are, and nobody's going to care more about your health than you, or should care more about it. And number 4, pesticides like glyphosate. Main ingredient in Roundup is a known hormone disruptor. That's one, you know, so that's what organic there. If we're buying organic, that's going to be much better as far as less of that or none of it. There are some organic pesticides that can still be used, but we got to limit that as much as we can. Here's a quick research study out of PubMed, and looking at the key characteristics of an endocrine receptor. We don't need to get into the nitty gritty, but I thought this was kind of interesting. It's showing how those how Roundup basically will block a hormone receptor, and that's how it gets disrupted. They can mimic different ones, and that, but basically every time you consume it, your body is thinking it's getting a certain hormone, so it produces less of its own, or vice versa, and that's where it can really throw things off. Second one here is deficiencies, so too little of what you need. A dietary quality index was developed reflecting the percentage of calories people derive from nutrient-rich, unprocessed plant foods on a scale of 0 to 100. The higher people score, the more body fat they tend to lose over time, and the lower their risk appears to be of abdominal obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. Most Americans didn't score so well. Hardly make it past a score of 10. So if we're deficient and we don't have enough of what our body needs, that puts us in a really tough position. Standard American diet reportedly rates 11 out of 100. So we can do better than that. Here's some data showing just how deficient and the problems we have with some of our food here. Usual micronutrient intake from food sources and prevalence of micronutrient inadequacies among U.S. residents. So I highlighted some of the big ones here, but vitamin D, potassium, and choline, 3 of those that are highly, highly deficient in our American diet. So then the third one here, and this is where we can all relate to, is an inappropriate stress response. 60 to 80% of visits have a stress-related component, and some say even higher, like 80 to 90% of primary care visits. 44% of Americans report an increase in psychological stress over the last 5 years. And the real kicker here, stress is associated with more office visits and disease, but to quote, little is known about stress management counseling in primary care. So what that says is your primary care, your MD, this is coming right out of a research report that the medical system put out. It's just a lot of it's referring. It's like, we don't know how to counsel you in lifestyle coaching. We've got medications and things like that, which can save a life and they're necessary at times, but our system's not set up to really educate people on health. And that was one of those core discoveries that I made. Heart rate variability is a prognostic indicator for cancer survival. I use this study a lot in our office. That is one of the most simple and easy ways to check your stress response and see how you're responding to stress. And what this study is showing is this heart rate variability test, it's more predictive of cancer outcomes than the stage of cancer itself. If you have a good HRV and you're responding to stress well, you have a better chance of surviving cancer regardless of what stage it's already gotten to. But we want to just have a good HRV and a good stress response before cancer is even on the table. So it's not even a conversation. That's the goal. All right. Second here, top 3 treatments now for dysregulated hormones. The good old try harder solution, right? We've all heard of that one. Who's been there and done that? So we could exercise more. There we go. Yep. We could sleep more. Try to that. We could eat better. The harder you try, the worse you feel. That's true. A lot of times when you're short on energy and the harder you push, the more caffeine you drink, the more coffee you drink, it doesn't really turn out to be productive. Been there, done that, right? That's number 1. Second is medications, the quick fix, right? The Band-Aid solution. Well, with medications, we're really never addressing the actual root cause. Sometimes they can provide a higher quality of life. They can save a life. But I tell people, I don't even need to know your name. If you have a migraine, I promise you're not deficient in ibuprofen. Right? Like, that's not the root cause of the migraine. There's something else going on. We want to look a little bit deeper than that. Every cause has an effect and a side effect. So getting at that root cause, we call side effects like undesired effects, but it's just medication is just doing what that chemical does in the body. And sometimes you notice things you don't like. That's a side effect, quote unquote. Addiction, that's becoming a more and more of a problem across the board, especially painkillers. Loss of efficacy. So every medication will have some sort of a tolerance your body builds, kind of like alcohol and a lot of things. It's a blessing that we have the ability to adapt. That's an intelligent adaptation mechanism, by the way, when your body loses an effect to like alcohol, for example. Same thing happens with medications, but it's an adaptive mechanism that your body has. Ongoing costs. So that's another thing there too. Insurance can change overnight and all of a sudden you're paying out of pocket for that. That's a concern there as well. Next one here is hormone replacement therapy. So that in the title of the workshop, I mentioned that a little bit, but severe and sometimes irreversible side effects that you're living with, responsibility to test and manage the rest of your life. That's a burden. You're taking responsibility for that. Increased prevalence and serious conditions, including but not limited to cardiovascular disease, cancer, bone disease, systemic organ dysfunction, mental health dysregulation, sleep apnea, infertility. So list goes on there. Ongoing costs financially, physically, and emotionally. Last one here we're going to cover here. This is the one that you can put in today. So top lifestyle hacks here. So for hormone dysregulation that you can implement today. Another testimony I want to share, Sato's testimony of victory. So Sato, he said, it came in here with a very severe sleeping problem, digestive problems, first part of 2021, several weeks without sleeping at all. Now he had actually gotten back to sleeping more reasonable amount of time. His energy's back up, able to work out, able to do a lot of the stuff that wasn't able to do before. And now he can get his work done, enjoy life, and he's grateful for that. So he was pushing and it wasn't really helping. He couldn't sleep, but we got him to sleep. And that was really good for him to be able to get back to life the way he wanted to. All right, so the first one here, carb budget. We all have a budget when we spend money, whether we track it or not. Like, we only have so much money to spend. So carb budget, that's what I call it. We have a limit for how many carbohydrates can be consumed before we got serious metabolic issues. One of them is just obesity. Extra sugar gets stored as fat, period. But we got to figure that out. So tracking your normal diet for 3 days with an app like Carb Manager in the bottom right corner there, that's a good one that I recommend. Then set a budget to reduce your net carbs. Just whatever it was at, just set a budget to reduce it. Small steps. And then we got to figure out where your carb budget's at. What's your threshold? So determining that can be a complex combination of genetics, activity level, goals that I can help you with, but you can start on just track it and then cut it down a little bit. You can start budgeting that a little bit and see what happens. I think good things are going to happen across the board. Implement what I call the kitchen rule. So that'll be your principal nutrition guide. Essentially, if you can't make it in your kitchen, probably don't want it in your body. Quick example, you could potentially scrape out a coconut. You could extract some oil from the coconut and make coconut oil in your kitchen. You cannot make canola oil in your kitchen, or a lot of these processed seed oils. You would need high pressure, and it looks more like a crude oil factory if you look at it like on how it's made or on YouTube. So think about that. When you read the ingredient label on the back of whatever it is, if you don't recognize it or know what it is, and if you couldn't make it in your kitchen if you wanted to, it's probably processed to a point you don't want it in your body. And then third, move your body, okay? But how? Well, we want to move it safely, enjoyably, so you can keep up with it, and effectively. Is there a best way to exercise? I'd say yes, there is. It's not cardio, it's not weightlifting, and it's not body weight or high intensity interval training. You've heard of that. Those are all good, and I'm not like opposed to doing that if that's what you want to do and that's what you can. But we do have really cutting edge, effective ways to exercise safely, effectively, enjoyably in the comfort of your home that can be a huge benefit to balancing your hormones. This one here, just a quick research study. This was a really cool one that came out, but basically what it's saying is that many people are overtraining and spending way too much time in the gym. They're not getting any better results. So the old go pump some iron, 3 sets, take a break of a minute between each one, do that for an hour in the gym 3 times a week. That paradigm is dying and moving out. There are a lot better ways to exercise and to stimulate your body in that way. Next year, I've got a really encouraging hormone related testimony I want to share with you. Colleen here said, I didn't handle stress very well or anxiety. However, since coming here after the first visit, I noticed I was calmer. My body was in the process of healing in a way I couldn't even imagine. This has been a great journey of seeing how body, mind, and spirit work together. I highly recommend Principled Living. I also want to say Dr. Reinhardt is so easy to talk to and very knowledgeable. I do ask questions so I can understand the process. She's great at that. She's always asking questions. Terry at the front desk is at the front desk and is friendly, will help in any way she can. Great experience. So Elaine was gracious enough to share some of her labs here. June 28th, 2023, her TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, 3.7. It's right at the top edge of normal. But the thing she was really concerned about is her thyroid antibodies were at 40 and they should be under 35. She had some labs done again in August and that TSH was coming down. They didn't look at the antibodies again. And then, praise God, November, TSH is back well within, or down in the normal range, and her antibodies were at 19, basically cut in half. Antibodies, that's the beginning of an autoimmune condition on her thyroid. Thyroid is the gland, the master gland of the body that basically tells all the hormones and all the metabolic processes how fast to go. You don't want to mess with that. And you don't want to mess with it in irreversible ways like cutting it out or radiating it. Then you're basically forced to be on a thyroid hormone the rest of your life, if you can. So she's in the clear and she's in good shape, and that was really good to see that. So next step here toward a life where you can finally remember whatever you thought about earlier in the presentation, fill in the blank there. We've covered some really great stuff here. That way, if you have found any of this to be valuable, could you just like leave a quick comment in the chat? And just want to kind of take a pit stop here before I keep blabbing. So I'll watch that here if we can get anything that you had, like a takeaway, something you want to apply. Okay, great. Getting some chat responses here. I'll wait for a couple more. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So to be honest, the time we have today isn't nearly enough time to give you everything, but I do have a solution that can help you gain the momentum and the information you need to begin making progress towards getting your health and life back. So if you're okay with that, I'd like to tell you more about that. Awesome. Okay, thank you. Yes, hormones are a really big deal. So the next step here. Okay, so this is what I alluded to earlier, called Superhuman You Initial Consultation. So let's overview this here. So in this, we will, 3 kind of main points here. Discover the blind spots that are preventing you from living the life you want. Sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, and the actions we're taking are actually counterproductive or hurting us, okay? Review your hormone optimization questionnaire to discover your current health score. Red, yellow, green. I'll show you a visual of that here on the next slide. And customize an action plan to unlock your superhuman potential. So through this questionnaire here, we're going to get a good idea. It's going to look something like this with where your nutritional deficiencies are. This is not a lab. This is a very detailed questionnaire of where things at, and it gives me the guidance to know what labs to do and justify why we're doing it. So kind of green, yellow, red. Yes, thanks again for the chats there. I see them coming through. Infections, biotoxins, male and female hormones. That's what we can get from a questionnaire to go over in that initial consultation. So recap here, discover blind spots, review that hormone optimization questionnaire, and customize an action plan. Normally this was $497 to go through that and sit down for an hour-long appointment, 50 to 60-minute appointment to do that. Today we're offering that for $197. So we want to cut that more than in half, make that an action step that is palatable and that you can take, and hopefully you'll choose to make that fork in the road decision. Lastly, though, we also include that electronic copy of the Principal Nutrition Guide. So we're adding that on as that bonus for attending today and being here part of the live webinar. One more testimony here we're going to finish up with. Mo's testimony victory. This one was awesome. He said, since I started having treatment over here, stopped epidural treatment. He was getting injections in his spinal cord because of his conditions. Continuously getting better. Symptoms, frequency of currents, all that stuff is just going down tremendously. I thought it was a joke. I just wanted to give it a shot because I'm running out of options, but this is real. It really works. Amen. That was awesome. His primary was shocked when he saw him walk back into the office, ready to go on with surgery. That was really cool to see what we turn that around. And also on the initial consultation, I offer a 100% money back guarantee. If you're not satisfied with the information and the value that we can deliver based on you filling that out and then going over that, I'll refund the complete investment there, the $197, just to try to make this a no-brainer and no risk decision for you to go through with. Couple more things here to cover. If we were having, this is where we really want to set up, like I try to under promise and over deliver, but a lot of that is, what are your expectations? So if we were having this discussion 6 months from today, what would have to happen for you to be happy with your progress? Because we want to have that, and that's what we asked that in that questionnaire. But think about it now. That helps us know what kind of expectations you're going to have and what you'd be looking for. But as far as that questionnaire goes, looking at just some average costs here, JD Power found out that the average monthly cell phone bill was $144 and an average monthly internet bill, $65. So our initial consultation is priced at less than what we're paying often. Most of us are paying $200-ish each month for cell phone and internet. And that's not making us healthy. It's actually exposed us to EMFs and could be disrupting our hormones, which is something we do ask about on the questionnaire there. So what comes next? Book your initial consultation with me. If you're interested in that, that's exactly what that page is going to look like. So you know you're in the right spot. Pick a time. You'll have a calendar pop up right after that. You'll see my schedule. It's probably too small, but that was what it looked like as of this morning. We got some options here as soon as later this week, tomorrow, and then the next day or next week. And then here's a snapshot of the questionnaire. It's all electronic. You go fill it out. You can save your work. I get it instantaneously. And then I can prepare and go through that and be ready to do the initial consultation with you. So recap here, our mission, we want to improve that stress response, health, quality of life for as many families as possible with our research proven and root cause tonal health model. This is one way that you can get involved with that. So if you don't take action, this is one of the key slides in this whole presentation. I love to go over this because it's so true. We don't expect anything to change as far as in a positive direction, your health, cost of action, things like that. And can you imagine feeling worse than you are now? How would that affect your family? How would that affect your coworkers, your business, whatever it is that you've got going on? Because we've all got plates that we're spinning. And then we don't know who said it, but Albert Einstein usually gets the credit. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So your ability to finally blank, that fill in the mind or fill in the blank there that you're thinking of earlier, is dependent on taking action. And we can agree that you're experiencing some blank related to decreased stress response. You want improved health. You want to improve your quality of life. So if that sounds familiar to you, hopefully this makes sense to you. Now our approach, I want to give you a little bit more of that before we wrap up here. Here is the traditional model. Traditional model looks at symptoms and how symptoms are what lead to disease. And so disease leads to death. That's kind of where we're hopping on the process there. Our tonal health model, we're gonna start a little bit further up the chain. We gotta get to the root cause here. And so this is how our approach ties in. We have optimal health at the top, and that's where we want everybody at. But we know that there's normal, there's like symptom-free, doing okay, but there's dis-ease, dis-ease. That comes before symptoms. And so if we can identify that through the questionnaire, through functional testing, things like that, we can prevent you from getting to the symptom area. And the symptom, disease, and death, we want to keep out of that as far as we can. But the tonal health model that we practice is keeping you out of the reactionary, it's being proactive rather than reactive. And that's how our approach is different in a nutshell. Some of the different things you'll experience here. In the traditional model, we're treating symptoms versus cause, prevention, and performance, drugs and surgery versus lifestyle change, cellular healing, detoxification, one size fits all versus a customized and personalized approach, reactive and reduction versus proactive and holistic, seeing the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, emphasize genetic predispositions versus emphasize epigenetic control, right? We talked about that at the beginning, kind of recapping that. Extremely expensive, financially draining on our system. We've got some big problems with our healthcare system. We try to make this affordable and save money long-term. So yes, it's an investment up front, but we're saving you money and suffering long-term. So the bottom line, you've got nothing to lose. We have the money back guarantee. Hopefully you can just lose a future you don't want though, for yourself or your family. The money back guarantee, like I just mentioned there. And then what can you gain? What can your business gain? What can your family gain? What is an investment? If you have better energy, if you get an hour extra work done, if you thrive on a half hour less of sleep, what difference does that make you? Or if you're just present and you can go 2 meetings back to back without a coffee, what's that making? So my quote and the way I put it, take time for your health now, or it will take time from you later. I hope that it doesn't take life off, but it will take life out of your years. The life of, the amount of quality of life that you have in the whatever years you have. One last thing here, our super bonus, or the last thing I want to add in as we're kind of launching this virtual health practice is for the first 10 that sign up, I'm going to block off an extra 15 minutes for the initial consultation. So we can take an even deeper dive into your case and get even more of your questions answered. The reason I'm doing that is I know that the people that are ready to go and that are ready to make change, those are my ideal clients and those are who I really want to work with. So I want to get them in and I want to get them results as fast as they can. And so if you're one of those people, you'll have a chance to do that here in just a moment. Just a recap here. So the Superhuman You initial consultation, discover your blind spots, review the hormone optimization questionnaire, customized action plan, electronic copy of the nutrition guide, and then additional 15 minutes for the first 10. Okay. Last slide here. Maybe there's 2 more left, but common questions. We got to just cover those quick. First one, is this covered by my insurance? So no, this is not covered by insurance. We choose to keep our fee structure set so that you can put your hard-earned dollar exactly where it needs to go, cut out the middleman, cut out the billing processes. There's a lot of inefficiencies in that. We want to get that care direct to you. Second is, how long does it take to get started? A lot of that's dependent on you. Like I showed, there are some openings, I believe even tomorrow, but then next week, it's just a matter of getting that scheduled, getting your paperwork filled out. That's how we get started right away. And then we can figure out labs and next steps after that. Can the whole family do this? Of course. The whole family can. We want to serve the whole family. We want to get everybody's story and figured out and optimize their hormones. Keep kids healthy. In our office here, yeah, it's better to keep kids healthy than to fix broken adults. And I love that. And we would want that for ourselves and for our kids as well. So in conclusion here, thank you for showing up, for spending your time here. I think, yeah, we kept it just under 40 minutes. So I'll get you back onto your work, whatever your day has going on. This is the link here where you can go and you can book that initial consultation with me. I'm going to put it right in the chat in case you just want to click and not type it in. So there it is in the chat. You can type it in. It's relatively short. If you've got a smartphone sitting there and you want to point your camera at that QR code, that'll pop it up too. Really easy to do that either way. And I hope that you found this beneficial. Really glad that everybody showed up today. We had a good turnout here. And I'm excited to answer any questions. We are available if you want to call or chat, specific questions that we can handle with that. We're just not able to take them on an open forum right now. But I am really thankful for everybody showing up today, and I wish you the best. So I will, I'll leave this up here just in case anybody wants to grab that link, copy it down. But I'm just really thrilled that everybody showed up today, got a good turnout, and I'm excited to see what we can do to help. And also just please share the message. We can help people across the country for sure, but across the world. There's ways to work around it. And with this type of coaching, I'm excited to be able to share more of what I know to help more people.